Ooh, that was a fun ride. But for some strange reason, I'm really hungry for pizza. And I just don't know why. Why pizza? Hello, welcome to my channel. Today, I'm going to talk about line choice. I haven't been up here to Cuyuna in a few weeks. Things have been a little crazy lately. But yeah, I'm going to go out on the trail. Let's talk about picking a line and why you might pick one over the other. And also, everybody's a little different. So some people might like some lines where other people might like other lines. And why might somebody maybe like myself who wants to get a little air or uses my skills or whatever to pick a different line versus picking maybe an easier line or something like that. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. So I'm going to get out on the trail and we'll find a few spots and I'll talk about it. Okay, so I'm on my way to the trail to talk about line choice, but while I'm here riding, you'll notice there's debris all over the place. And there's a lot of downed trees here and there. I don't see any at the moment, but the trail's full of all this debris. We had some big storms come through here over the last couple of weeks, and it ended up closing down almost all the trails because trees were laying across. Here's a tree that was laying across this trail. So that's why I haven't been doing any updates here. The weather has really been wreaking havoc in the last few months. Kind of crazy. Anyway, let's talk about line choice when I get to the trail, which is just a short distance up here. Okay, so the first thing about line choice is, where are you looking when you're riding down the trail? A lot of people get in this habit of looking down and right at their front tire, or right in front of their front tire, and you don't want to do that. You want to be looking down the trail so you can pick a line and see what's coming and kind of plan your attack. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. So one way that I approach almost all corners, if there's not like something in the trail that's gonna add challenge, is I approach them on the outside, because that opens up the corner for me to have more room and more decision making. If I come to the inside, everything's really tight all of a sudden. So the line through corners by default is to the outside. That doesn't mean it's always the best choice. Like this root here, I'm gonna go right inside of it. So the next thing to understand is that when you are turning, your rear wheel doesn't follow exactly where your front wheel is going. So I'll find a corner and show you an example of that. Okay, so here's a good example of your rear wheel tire not following exactly where your front tire goes. Is if you see that root up there, if I want my rear tire to not go over that root, then I run my front tire right to the left of it and start my turn. Watch where my rear tire goes. Right over the root. And then if you've noticed, it kind of kicked a little bit to the side, because ideally I'd want to go over the center of the root, not this sloped side where it's going to kick me sideways. Right now, rethink that line. And as I'm coming up and I see that, I can either go really wide to make sure my rear tire clears, or I can take that inside line and look down the trail. So I would take this line and run my tire just to the inside. Rear tire clears perfectly. So that is the idea. Realize that as you're turning, your rear tire is going to be inside a good amount, and the steeper the turn, the more your rear tire is going to track to the inside. It's not going to follow perfectly in line with where your front tire goes. So you need to understand that so you can make sure your rear tire isn't hitting things. So don't just think about avoiding things with their front tire. Understand where your rear tire is going to follow as you go. So let's go ahead and hit this line, and I'll do both lines and show you how this works. Okay, so the first go, I'm going to go to the outside of the root. So I'm going to go, oh, pick this line, and my back tire hit the root and kicked to the left. Now I'll go on the inside. So I see that root and I want to miss it with my rear tire, so I go to the inside, and there we go. Clean line. And it actually set me up for the trail, and I was able to keep my momentum. Okay, here's a part of the trail where it's very clear to me that the main trail used to go mostly through where these roots are, but riders didn't like the roots, so they started riding to the right and made their own line, which I don't like it when people do that. This trail has it's a pretty relatively mellow trail, and this is just something that people should just ride over, and if they're afraid of it, they should get off their bikes and walk over it. But instead, people are just I don't know why, but they start making their own trail. Then you see how wide trail is. You might have heard this saying, keep single track single. Well, this is not keeping single track single. This is people going, oh, I don't want to stay on the main trail and go over here. And trust me, those roots are nothing. So I'm going to go back and I'll go over those roots, and they're really nothing. They're not going to make you crash or flip over or anything. You just stay relaxed and your bike's just going to roll right over them. There's nothing there that I see that would add any risk to a rider, even a beginner. I'll get off my soapbox in a second, but let me show you something. Here's these rocks. You got to go down these gnarly rocks, then come over here, and the trail goes here over to these roots, which are way less severe than the rocks I just went over. So why people ride down the rocks but then want to avoid the roots is beyond me. All right, off my soapbox, but part of picking a line is riding where the trail is intended to be. And if you're on the proper skill level trail, you should be fine, right? If you're going on a trail above your skill level, that's fine. You can challenge yourself, but do it knowing that you might run into a feature you can't ride or don't want to ride or not comfortable riding. And so when you get to that, dismount, walk over the feature, not alongside of it, and then get back on your bike and go. That's how we keep single track single. All right, I said I'd get off my soapbox. That was it. Let's get back to this picking a line, but that's part of the whole deal, right? Picking your line has a little bit to do with trail sustainability also. Here we go. Okay, here's a section of trail where you come through and there's these rocks, and this thing sticks up kind of like a pyramid a little bit, but it's pretty low. If you get down, it doesn't stick way up. And then there's a flat rock there, a couple of gnarly rocks, but then to the left you can see a more smooth line, right? So this is what I would consider a choice line, depending on the kind of rider you are, right? And then if you look down the trail, you'll see there's a rock slab on the right and kind of a clear thing on the left. And again, it's kind of a choice, right? And there are some riders, I mean, I'll have to go up there and look at it, that might even be able to boot off of that rock and clear the junk right after it, right? Or maybe there's some sharp things. I don't know yet until I get up there or as I approach it. But here is an optional line. So I will take both lines and show you kind of the difference. As I'm getting ready to do these lines, let's take this moment to take in the scenery of this lake right behind me while I'm filming. This is awesome. That is the #1 reason why I love being up here. First, I'll take the rock line to the right. So here we go. I stand up, pedals flat, just go through it. Right? Stand up, pedals flat. I had plenty of time to change up the second line depending on where I wanted to go, but I did end up going over that rock slab and it wasn't that bad. Now keep in mind, these are pretty mellow rocks. We're not in the North Shore or anything like that where things are really gnarly. This is where you want to learn and figure out how to pick lines. Let's do this cleaner line. So the cleaner line, I will stay seated because it's not very bumpy and I am on a hardtail. So I can just pick that, miss that little rock, fly through here, much smoother. I can just pick that, miss that little rock. So whatever line you choose, it's really your choice. Both ones are fine, but if you want the smoother line, you go to the left, and if you want the fun kind of rock challenging line, you go to the right. Of course, I'm heading back up the trail, so I'm picking or specifying the sides as if I was riding towards it. Now, one thing I want to point out, and I only noticed this as I was riding up, is that rock right there. This guy. As I decided to take the smooth line, I realized, hey, there's this rock sticking out. So it's very important that as you're approaching the trail, you're looking ahead. And like, hindsight to me says, if I'm gonna ride this and I'm about here and I see that rock to the left, I don't want the smooth line now. I want this line right over this guy right here. This to me is the smoothest line, this rock right here. And then I go right down the middle, and then I would go either to the left through there or go to the right and go on the smooth rock on the right. So that little rock, show you again, sticking up on the left, is kind of a game changer for me as I'm approaching this. I'm like, whoa, I don't want to risk hitting that, so I'm going to go to the right and go over that smooth rock on the right. Here's a good one as you approach and see this kind of root running along like that. One thing to take note is your tire catching that root, it's going to kick it that way, right? So you have a couple options here, and I have a feeling this is another one of those places where people avoid the root, so they added a little width to the trail over here to the left. So that is an option now. So if you're coming at this root, you can pick this line and avoid it entirely, right? Or if you look further down, because you've learned to look down the trail as you're approaching, you'll see there's a little space over on the far right, right? And so you can go right along the root and pick this line right here, right? Now there's this kind of this chunky stuff in the middle, which is what I would consider probably the first ideal line, would be to come through and just skim on the inside of this root and just go right over this chunky stuff and right through the middle. So to me, that's the best line. And it takes quick thinking to be approaching it, right? And be able to figure all that out in just a matter of seconds. And you get better at it as you do it more. So the reason you don't want to go this way and then like cut over that part or that later part is because if you do that and you come here and you decide, oh, I'm going to cut over, if your front wheel hits it, it might ride over it. Your back wheel is likely to catch it and go and slide out to the side. Same thing here. If you try to ride over this, you might slide with your front tire, maybe, maybe not. And then your back tire is almost guaranteed to catch it and slide to the side like that. So you want to avoid trying to go over things that are at that extreme angle that are going to kick your bike over. So I would go right through this middle part right here and go over those roots that are going more across the trail rather than along the trail. So let's ride it. So I am going to stand up. I'm going to pick this line right here. This right through it. No issues. I'm going to stand up. I'm going to pick this line right here. So as I'm going along the trail, I'm looking ahead, picking a line, finding that clean line right through there. Here's some more through the corners, knowing that my rear tire is going to be to the inside on corners, right? So I want to go wide, dive inside that root. And here I'm going to go wide outside here, and straight through the middle. There. So I picked this for last for a reason. This is the kind of line choice where you can choose either option depending on your skill level and what you want to do. So as you approach this, you have the smooth line to the right and you have the booter to the left. And if you want to launch off the booter, by all means, boost off of it. If you want to go smooth and stay away from it, which I would understand many riders wanting to do, you just go to the right. And if you're looking ahead, you will see this option and pick the appropriate line based on what you want to do. So let's go ahead and hit it. And by hit it, I mean the booter. So there you have it. Picking a line, knowing how to do it is extremely important. With that being said, I'm gonna go enjoy the rest of the trail ride and sign off. I really appreciate your support for my channel. Please like and subscribe, especially if you like this kind of content. Peace, peace, peace.